Guys, I cannot believe that in 2026, we are literally fighting off the ANC for trying to silence the people of this country. These are the very same people that have been talking about the apartheid government and what the apartheid government did to them and how they were silenced back in apartheid. But today, the very same ANC wants to silence the people of this country because people are talking about their corruption, people are exposing their incompetence, and they are not happy about it. One thing that is very clear is that these people do not want to fix themselves. They do not want to correct the ANC. If anything, they want the people of this country to stop talking about the corruption and the incompetence of the ANC. It is insane for these people to go to parliament to talk about how they are going to regulate the podcast, whereas they have never done anything to assist the people in this space. It is shameless. It is absolutely shameless. And guys, like I said yesterday, once these people are done with the podcast, they are coming for you. They are coming for you. Whatever that they are trying to pass, if it gets passed, it is fine. But they are coming for you. And this is one thing that we must never let it happen. The people of this country are not going to be silenced by Khusela Diko. Our forefathers did not die for us to be silenced by PPE fraudsters like Khusela Diko. We must not let it happen. We must not let it happen. And yesterday, man, I'm happy because there's a video that I came across, and this is a video that I wanted to share with you guys. Dr. Sizwe Mpofu also got to speak there at the parliament, and I like the points that he actually made. But guys, let me just refresh your memory, because yesterday the South African parliament hosted a high-stake roundtable on how they are going to regulate the nation's booming podcast sector. This thing was led by Khusela Diko. The committee aimed to balance public interest protections with the rapid growth of digital creator economy. As podcasts increasingly influence the news and culture, officials are exploring how existing laws apply to on-demand audio. The dialogue involving regulators, legal experts, and platforms will focus on creating a co-regulatory model. The goal was to establish accountability and complaint mechanism without stifling the innovation and diverse voices currently driving the industry. You see this last line, this is garbage at its best. The goal is to establish accountability and complaint mechanism without stifling the innovation and diverse voices currently driving the industry. On that interview that Khusela Diko did with the SABC, she said something. She said that some of these podcasts are way bigger than the mainstream media. They get more engagement and get more views than the mainstream media. And I did point it out that is where the problem is. That is where the problem is. The government is working hand in hand with the mainstream media to silence the people in the podcast, because now you can see the difference is day and night. How the news are delivered on the mainstream media and how the news are delivered on the podcast. It is day and night. Everybody can see who is for the people of this country, and everybody can see who is working to shield the truth from the people of this country. I mean, many people can tell you that we have learned more about the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee through the podcast more than the mainstream media. If you can have a conversation with somebody that is watching the mainstream media to get to know what is happening about Madlanga Commission, they don't have as much knowledge as somebody that is watching the podcast. And this is what they hate the most. This is what they hate the most. So guys, let's actually get into this clip of Dr. Sizwe Mpofu, because I believe as podcasters, he actually did represent us well. And man, Dr. Sizwe Mpofu is well-spoken and is soft-spoken, and he makes nice points. If they called me to go to the parliament, I was never going to be as diplomatic as Dr. Sizwe Mpofu. The first thing I was going to say is that, Khusela Diko, when are you going to host a high-stakes roundtable about the PPE money that you and your husband allegedly stole? When are you going to discuss that corruption? When are you going to do that? Instead of trying to silence young people in this country, when are you going to tell the people what happened with that PPE money that you were accused of? Because if you really think about it, these people, if they did it, they stole the PPE money when South Africans were dying. I believe that is more important to be discussed than how they are going to stifle the podcast industry. But then Dr. Sizwe Mpofu is well spoken, and shout out to him for actually representing us as podcast.
Is there a problem with podcast, Doc? Is there a problem? What is the problem?
Honourable Chair, firstly, thank you very much for the kind invitation. Honourable members, Deputy Minister, Chairperson, it's a great joy to be with you, and thank you very much for the kind welcome. On the first question, are podcasts a problem? I would strongly resist that framing. And I would suggest that we need to view podcasts as a potential island of excellence within the South African economy right now.
Okay, that is very important to what the doctor has highlighted. The framing of the question tells you that these people over here have already concluded that there's a problem with the podcast. The main problem with the podcast is that South Africans are speaking freely. So now they are pretending to host a round table to discuss what is happening with the podcast space, whereas they have already made up their own minds that there's a problem in the podcast space. You see what is happening here. So Kusala Diko is trying to do this as just a formality so that next time when she proposes a bill there in Parliament, people will, like, you know, that the ANC already have the DA and other political parties in their pockets. So I would be very worried as a South African right now. I would be very worried about the freedom of speech because we can see exactly what these people are trying to do. So the fact that these people are already posing a question like, what is the problem with the podcast? It tells you everything that you need to know about these people and their intention. They have already made up their minds that there's a problem with the young South Africans speaking about the problems that are facing this country. They have already made up their own minds.
With podcast, Doc, is there a problem? What is the problem?
Honourable Chair, firstly, thank you very much for the kind invitation. Honourable members, Deputy Minister, Chairperson, it's a great joy to be with you, and thank you very much for the kind welcome. On the first question, are podcasts a problem? I would strongly resist that framing. And I would suggest that we need to view podcasts as a potential island of excellence within the South African economy right now. When we consider the very difficult position in which the South African economy finds itself, podcasts have risen as black-led, independent, and financially sustainable economic entities. And I think that's a particularly important island of excellence that not only we need to think about regulating, but that we need to consider how we actually assist and help, not just from a truth perspective, but from an economic perspective. So I'd strongly resist the urge to characterize podcasts as some kind of problem, and I would rather invite us to consider how we treat them as an emerging exemplar of excellence in the country at the moment, warts and all. As far as the regulatory question goes, I think we have to be very careful here to consider what it is that we are regulating. And for me, there are three distinct areas of regulation that are apt. The first is you regulate harm. And those kind of harms are dignity harms like hate speech or defamation. So what are we regulating? We're trying to regulate some kind of harm here to people's dignity. And there, for me, we have very effective ways through our courts of regulating egregious assaults on people's dignity and defamation. And the question I would ask is, why do we think that those existing mechanisms, which are enforced through an independent judiciary, are inappropriate in this case? So in terms of the regulation of overt harms like hate speech or defamation, we have regulations. The other thing we would regulate is explicitness, overt violence, foul language, inappropriate nudity. And there really is a need to regulate. But there, for me, platforms already regulate to a large extent. If they don't, then I think that may be an area that we need to speak about more seriously. Again, there are also legal regulations for egregious violations of those areas of regulation. But also a podcast, I think, might be caught by the film and publication regulations already. Without wanting to be too prolix, because I'm not quite sure how long I have.
Yeah, just 1 minute.
1 minute left. I think that the third thing that we would want to regulate is disinformation, misinformation, or in other words, we'd want to protect truth. So we'd have dignity on the one hand, we'd have explicitness, or we'd want to protect some form of violation of accuracy. And this, for me, is where I think the real debate lies, because this seems to be where the main concern seems to be around podcasting. But I would say that when we consider how to preserve accuracy in the digital age, it's really not as easy as simply setting up some kind of parallel BCSA or suggesting that podcasters should sign up to their own form of regulation. So for me, the debate should shift rather from explicit harm or explicitness to questions of truth, how we preserve accuracy. But the only question I would raise is, I've looked quite deeply into the practicalities of how we do this, Chair, and we mustn't underestimate how vexed this question is. Right from the beginning of how you define a podcast, right through to the question of if you want to create some kind of stratification of podcasts, that becomes an incredibly difficult thing. Where I believe, and I close here, there are areas where we can focus in the short term to make the most change would be the right of reply. And I listened very carefully to the Deputy Minister, and I apologize wholeheartedly for not replying to his YouTube comment. The right of reply, I think, is an important area we can focus on together, as well as the advertising area and making sure that audiences understand when things are paid for and when they aren't. As for an overt attempt to license or introduce any kind of state regulation or introduce any form of what might be bordering on light, medium, or heavy forms of censorship, I think we should strongly resist that. I think it would have a very hampering effect on not only digital media truth, but also a burgeoning industry. And I think we should be very careful in considering any kind of state participation in the control of podcasting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Like I said, guys, Dr. Sizwe Mpofu is very diplomatic. Honestly, I was never going to be as diplomatic. Because first of all, to even sit there, to even suggest that these people are interested in the truth, it will be a lie. You cannot tell me that the people that belongs to the ANC are interested in the truth. The ANC, the only thing that they have been doing to the people of this country is lying to the people of this country. So you can't tell us that the liars suddenly are interested in the truth being told. It makes no sense. It makes no sense, guys. So let me charge my PC first. Like I was saying, guys, you cannot tell me that the people that have been lying to South Africans for more than 30 years are suddenly interested in the truth. So what is it exactly are we discussing here? And Dr. Sizwe actually goes into what I also discussed yesterday when I was reacting to that video of Kusela Diko calling her out that you are lying for being on national television and actually pretending like there is no regulation on these sites where we post the content. And to show you that the mainstream media is not for the people of this country, the lady that was interviewing Khusela Diko, she never said, but these people are already regulated on YouTube. They are already regulated on Facebook. They are already regulated on TikTok and Twitter. She didn't say that. She allowed Khusela Diko to make it look like everything is for free on these sides, and the government is actually needed to regulate the people. We have BCCSA in this country, and we have the courts in this country. But one thing that Khusela Diko again made very clear is that she's not interested in these matters being taken to the courts, because according to her, the courts are expensive and not everybody can afford to take the matters to the courts. So the state must come as the Lord and Savior and save the people. They want to regulate the space that actually already has the regulation. It makes no sense. This is the point that Dr. Sizwe Mpofu is making. We are already regulated on these spaces. There are things that we cannot do on these platforms. And once we cross that line, we get demonetized or our platforms will get scrapped. We know the rules. We have actually read the rules before we actually signed the contracts. But they want to regulate the space that already has the regulation. So for people that have been lying to sit there and pretend like we care about the truth being told, I'm not going to buy it. That's why I said that, man. Like, I wish they had called me. I honestly wish they had called me so that I can tell them where to get off. Honestly. Can you just imagine, man? The ANC suddenly being interested about the truth. The ANC is interested about the truth. And who gets to say what is the truth and what is not? Are we going to sit here and allow the comrades to tell us what is the truth or what is not? We are not going to do that. The mainstream media, what is reporting and what we are reporting is quite different. The comrades are happy with the mainstream media because the mainstream media is reporting what they want. We are not reporting what the mainstream media wants and the comrades wants. This is the problem. You remember yesterday, Khusela Diko said that the podcast space, it must come and be at the position where it's like the mainstream media. And I said, man, that is where the problem is. We don't want to be like the mainstream media. The only reason why people are gravitating towards our platforms is because we are nothing like the mainstream media. We are totally different from the mainstream media. This is the only reason why people are gravitating towards these platforms. But no, the government wants us to be like the mainstream media and to be their lakes like the mainstream media. And this is one thing that we must reject. And we must remind the ANC of apartheid time and time again. They have been using apartheid every time they try to campaign. And we are going to use apartheid right now. When they try to silence us, we are going to remind them that the apartheid censorship, it is not going to work because this is what you want to do. The Minister of Communication, where is the budget to assist the upcoming podcast? Where is the budget? You remember Musimemane did say that we should sit down and actually talk about how we are going to help these people with the finance, with the resources. Because some of these platforms actually employ people. Some of these platforms, they have a lot of people working for them. They could actually use the assistance from the government. But no, they are not doing that. They are saying, no, let's find the ways to actually stifle these people and make this space uncompetitive. It is ridiculous, man. Like, it is absolutely ridiculous. And again, man, shout out to Dr. Sizwe Mpofu. You did make valid points. Like, he honestly did make valid points. But he was not brutal enough. For all of the people that were called there, they were not brutal enough. And you are dealing with scumbags. You should be brutal when you are dealing with the scumbags. You should be brutal. You are not going to silence South Africans. That, first of all, you are not going to do that. You are not going to do that. The mainstream media they didn't have a competition throughout the years. They didn't have competition. Today there's competition and they cannot compete. They cannot compete. So instead of finding creative ways to attract viewers to their side, they are saying, no, let's go to the government and cry, oh, look at these people. They are taking our viewers. These people are taking our audiences. And now people are looking at platforms like the SMWX, Mighty J, Meet the 360 Experience, Ronaldo host for the news. And we don't want it anymore. Oh, please, the government, do something about these people. Then Kusela Diko was sitting there like, yes, I am going to regulate these people. I am going to stifle them. Like, I'm sick and tired of these people telling the truth about us. The ANC is not interested in the truth, because if they were interested in the truth, they would have helped the podcast space to actually grow. They would have helped the podcast with the finance and the resources. The only reason why they are coming after the podcast is because they hate the truth that has been told on these podcast spaces. That is it. That is it. Those are my thoughts, guys. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Please tell me what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hit the like button, and the most important part is subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso. I will see you next time. Do it.